Good evening to everyone out there. Today is Friday, January the 14th, 2022, and you're tuned in to The Last P with your host, myself, J Breezy, aka J Mart. Today's episode, I want to speak about character because each one of us have a particular character. We all have our character. We all, a lot of times, can be defined by our character and who we are. And character, it makes or break us amongst other people from time to time. You could be a good person with a good heart, but at times you can have like a short fuse, and it's very easy for you to get upset or lose your cool. Other times you can just be a mean person, just generally mean for no reason. So what I want to discuss is like how we as individuals can sometimes put a person we can sometimes make a person in our picture or from our perspective of how we think they should be. And a lot of times we have to realize that we don't all think the same. We don't all react the same. We don't all have the same opinion. And we can agree to disagree. But sometimes people they want you to be who they want you to be. And then once they be around you for a period of time, and then they realize that you aren't the person that they thought you were because they created this image of who they wanted you to be in their mind. And then as time go on, and then they really get to know you, so to speak, they sometimes become disappointed because they picture you in their image, if that makes sense. I've had situations myself to where, because I am a very good person, have a good heart, and I will do what I can for those who I care about and those who I love, and to the best of my ability. And sometimes even perfect strangers, I would do for perfect strangers. That's just a person that I am. But don't get it twisted. I am far from a sucker. I'm not naive. I'm not gullible. I have empathy and sympathy, and I have my way of thinking, and I'm set in my ways. And a lot of times, a lot of us do be set in our own ways, and we can be open for listening to other people's ideas, thoughts, opinions, or what have you. But we don't necessarily always have to agree with that person's opinion, ideas, or what have you. But some people they can't grasp that. They think that their way of thinking is the right way, so to speak, but every individual have their own mind and they see things totally different from the next person. Prime example, if you're raising children, right, and you see the way somebody else is raising their child or children versus how you raise your child or children, that also goes back to your own upbringing or the things that you have experienced yourself growing up. Like, for instance, maybe you grew up in a two-parent home, and maybe in that two-parent home there was structure, there you had discipline, there was it was a functioning family. Or maybe you grew up in a two-parent home and it was not balanced. You heard arguing, your parents fussing and fighting, and it wasn't balanced. Or you were raised in a single parent home, i.e., by your mother alone or by your father alone. Now, maybe you were raised by your mother alone and she worked a lot. She was the breadwinner. She was rarely home, and you pretty much raised yourself. But you didn't really get to. You didn't really get that balance. of having both parents in the house. But as I said before, you can still have both parents in the house and still be off balance. One of the parents could like have their own personal issues and they take it out either on their children or their wife or just other people in general. So the way we grow up sometimes, it kind of like it's the base for how we sometimes turn out as we become adults. Now I can speak for myself. I came up in a two-family home. Sorry, a two-parent home. My father worked all the time. My mother was a stay-at-home mother. My dad was an awesome provider. My dad was a. They both my parents were strong believers in higher power. Very religious Christian parents. You know, they some a lot of times if I had issues or something that I need discussed or advice about, they would say talk to God or give it to God. But you know, I wanted it advice from like my parents, you know, like from my dad or from my mother. So my dad, a lot of times, he dropped a lot of knowledge and jewels on myself and my other siblings, as well as my nieces and nephews, and you know other people that he encountered. But that's the person he was. He was a person who just like loved people. He was a very people person. So I grew up with that. I witnessed my dad and how he was to other people, how he was to his family, how he was to my mother, and how he was like in general just to me. He used to tell me a lot of things that I didn't get when I was a child, but it stuck with me. And as I grew up, I understood what he meant and it all made sense to me. So I'm saying that to say that I had I had a real good foundation as far as like my character. My dad put a lot in me and I paid attention and I had structure. I had discipline. Of course, some of my older siblings might disagree with that I was very that I was disciplined. They weren't around, but anyhow, that's another topic for a whole another day. So my dad and my mother's upbringing, mostly my dad, because my dad was always like, you know, giving us knowledge and things of that nature. The things he taught me, said to me, stuck with me. To it made me who I am. However, once I grew up throughout time, you know, my adolescent, teen, adult, all those moments, my personal experience also developed me into the person that I am and my character. So who I am is based on my upbringing and my own personal experience. I'm able to communicate and speak with people. As I said before, my father was a people person. You know, he didn't meet a stranger. He was always talking to people. And he always had my brother and I with him. And when I speak of my brother and I, my brother that's closer to my age, I'm the last of 16 kids. So I have siblings way older than I am. So my brother, that's 3 years my senior, 3 years older than I am. He and I were very close, and my dad put a lot of time in us, as well as my other siblings. So I did a lot of stuff as I became an adult that my parents didn't teach me. What I mean by that is like as once I became an adult, as we all usually do, I wanted to figure things out on my own. I wanted to try things out on my own. I wanted to make my own decisions. I wanted to make choices that would later bite me in the buttocks. But that's how we do. And those choices also developed my character and who I am. My story isn't your story. Your story isn't my story. We also judge people too. And I have to be honest, I've been guilty myself of prejudging or judging other people based on who they are and their character. And a lot of times I can be arrogant and thinking my way, the way that I came up, was better than your way. And let me explain that. Because I did have both parents in the house, because my dad was a hardworking man, a provider. Um, he dropped a lot of knowledge on us. Well, let me say this. I was when I was born, my father was 45 years old when he had me. Well, when he produced me. My father and mother both were 45. They usually the same age for a few months, but I have an early birthday, early February. Well, February. My father's birthday is in September. My mother's birthday is in June. So they will be the same age for a short period of time. So my father and mother was 45 when they had me. Now that I'm that age, maybe a little bit older, I'm looking at like, okay, I used to look at that age as being old, but now I am that age. I kind of beg to differ. But anyway, when I was coming up, I thought my parents were old. And I thought like they were they had me too old. And a lot of things that, I wanted to do, they were not really into the things that I wanted to do. But it also goes back to the generation. It was a different generation. My dad was born in 26, 27, and my mother 27, I believe. Like, yeah, so different time, different generation. So sometimes I be feeling like the way I came up was better than the way the next person came up because of that, that two-parent home. And then my dad, like I said, was a worker. He had his main job, then he had his two side jobs in which we would have to go with him to perform these jobs. So I had chores to do. I learned work early, and I learned how to speak to people, to be to introduce myself, to talk. My dad didn't play that being shy stuff, like going around people and not saying anything. So I feel like he he molded me for the most part, and a lot of stuff he taught me, it sticks to me to this day. My father had passed in 2015, and a lot of times when I used to talk to my dad all the time when I needed some advice or whatever. So when he passed, it was kind of hard for me. And I had to start thinking like, what would Pops do? I called my dad Pops. What would Pops do in this situation when I couldn't call him anymore? I had to figure it out. Like, and then a lot of times I realized like I'm not my dad. And certain ways and certain things he did, in certain ways he was, it's not me. My dad was very humble. He smiled all the time. A very friendly man. Everybody loved him. I'm a humble person. I smile sometimes. Like I said earlier, I have a good heart and I do for people. But there's also that edgy side to me. And in my earlier days, early adulthood, that edgy side kind of creeped out, and it sent me on a different path. And that path that it sent me on caused me to make some choices and some decisions that bit me in the booty. Had I listened to my dad and followed his way, I probably would have went a whole different path. But that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to do it my way. And as I said, my dad was old fashioned. He came up at a different time, a different generation. So my character and the person who I ended up becoming was based on my upbringing by my parents and my own personal experience. And then falling down, getting back up, and realizing who I am. It took me a lot of years to realize who I am. And a lot of times I know it takes us a long time to really figure out who we are. So when we look at another person and we see their character, we can't judge them. We don't know their background. We don't know their story. And when we have to sympathize and empathize with other people, how they are, who they are. And as I said, and we also got to stop blaming we also have to stop blaming um like parents for everything how a person turned out to be. Be honest with you. like I said earlier, I did some things in my early adult life that I don't regret, but I wasn't raised that way. But it got to a point. It had gotten to a point to where, like, okay, as I said, this is my mind. I want to do what I want to do. I want to, I want to make my own moves. I just want to do it my way. And doing it my way, I paid the price. But I wouldn't change that experience for anything. So you can't look at somebody and say, well, he won't raise like that. The things that I did, like I'll give you a prime example. Some things that I did, I'm pretty sure I disappointed my parents or made them feel, maybe they felt like, where did they go wrong? And not to say that I did some bad stuff, but I just did some stuff that I wasn't raised to do. And I had to tell my parents one day, like, y'all did a great job raising me. Anything that I did, any choices that I made, it doesn't fall back on how y'all brought me up. That only falls on me because I'm grown and I was old enough to make my own decisions and my own choices. But I still had everything that I had learned from you guys. I knew right from wrong, but it was just me wanting to do me. So when you see a child, a grown person behaving in a certain manner, and then you be like, he or she wasn't raised right. We can't say that. We have to stop saying that, because you can raise a child to the best of your ability, and you can, like, just give that child, your children, love, support, provide for them, give them knowledge, all kinds of good things growing up. But then once they become their own person, they are entitled to try it their way. But that doesn't mean that you as a parent didn't do your job. So what I'm saying about character is that each individual person and their character, it's just like, it is what it is. They are how they are. Some people just have good they just have, like, they just good people. Sometimes good to the point to where you, in the eyes of the next man or the next person, next woman or female, the next person, they come across as being naive or something like that, gullible or what have you, just because they're a good person and they have a good heart, and they see the good in people, and they want to see the good in everybody. They want to see the good in the world. Then you have those people who are a good person, and they have seen or tried to see the good in people, but they've seen so much bad or negative in people throughout their life or whatever, they not so much have given up on seeing the good in people, but they go into it hoping for the best, but expecting the worst. And I know you all have heard that before. Hoping for the best, but expecting for the worst. So basically, I just want to say, like, let people be who they are. It's up to you. Once you see how a person is and how their character is, it's up to you to decide if you want to continue to be around that person or not. No one is forcing you to be around people that you're not feeling who or how they are. So stop judging people based on their character, because you don't know their story. You don't know what they've been through. Just understand them. Understand who they are. And if you care about them enough to deal with their character, then do that. Deal with their character. If you don't care enough to deal with their character and their ways, then throw them deuces up. Be on your way. It's just that simple. Don't let another person's character change who you are. Don't get disappointed at that person just because they are not the person or the image that you have created in your own mind and your own eyes about that person. Focus on yourself. Focus on loving yourself. Focus on inner love. And whatever you see a person that's doing that you're not feeling, just be like, yo, you know what? I like you, but I can't be around you. Or just be like, you know what? You're different, but you're cool. I can get used to you. I can understand you. And I can kick it with you. Don't get too caught up in your feelings because some person, some people you like just aren't how you are or how you want them to be. If you enjoy that person, those people, and y'all just don't agree on everything, just the old cliche, just learn to agree to disagree. All right? So thank you guys for tuning in. And I hope you got a little message from this. And I will catch you next time. This is the Last P video podcast with your man Jay Breezy, aka Jay March. Peace and love. Until next time, I'm out.